Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our live TurboVap demo. Today, we're going to show you the new features and benefits of the TurboVap systems. But before we get into that, we'd like to take a quick poll of our audience and learn a little bit more about what applications you guys are running at your lab. So feel free to answer our poll that we're about to send you. All right, I hope your answers are in. Great. It looks like we have a lot of folks from the environmental market. So we're going to show you the flexibility and versatility of the environmental market and also other applications for the TurboVap systems.
Perfect.
All right. Sorry about that. When you want technology to work, it just doesn't happen that way. But we're glad to be back, bringing you back to the TurboVap systems. Today, we're going to show you the flexibility and the versatility of our TurboVap system and how you can concentrate a range of volumes and program the system for your solvents that you're using. Now, if you take a look at the LCD screen that I have here, there is a evaporation tab and a settings tab. Right now, I am on the settings tab, and you can see some of the systematic parameters that you can control from the system. There is a sound level, so those of you that use the classic system, there are an audible alarm when the system is finished with its concentration protocol. The newer system allows you to control it with the click of a button, what volume level you want, or have it turn off completely. There is a brightness level for the LCD screen itself. And over here is one of the newer features. It is the manifold setup. I have it set up for a TurboVap 2, which is a 6th position for larger volume concentration. But you can have the flexibility of pulling out the current manifold that is in it by taking out these 4 pins right here and swapping out manifolds and converting it into an LV if you wish. There is a very, very cool feature, which is the sleep feature. You can tell the system when you want it to wake up in the morning and when you want it to go to sleep. And what that does is when you come into the lab, say at 7 o'clock in the morning, the system will already be awake and it will have brought the bath to temperature, so you are ready to start your concentration protocol. And then if you leave the lab and you forget to turn the system off, you don't have to worry, because you could set the sleep timer for 5 p.m. and it'll shut off automatically, so there's no baths that are left on in the lab. There is also a feature over here for the units of temperature. Most of our labs prefer Celsius, but you have the option of going to Fahrenheit if you wish to. And there's also a date and time setting. So any time zone that you live in, any area that you live in, you can calibrate the date so it is as accurate as possible. And as you notice, there is a bath light feature as well. You can turn that on or off. The light is standard, a white light, but once you have the light on and you start a concentration protocol, once it completes the concentration protocol, the bath light will turn green as a visual indicator that your concentration is complete. So moving from the settings to the evaporate mode, you can see that there are a bunch of features. But before we get into this, we'd like to take another quick poll and learn a little bit more about what concentration ranges or volumes that you are typically concentrating in the lab. So Sarah, take it away. All right. It looks like we have a lot of small volume concentrations going on in the lab. Well, that's great. So right now we're focusing on the 2, but we will get into converting it to an LV and going in with the lower concentrations. So as you can see, when you're in the evaporate tab, this is where you're using a lot of functionality during your evaporation protocol. Now, the mode right now is in method mode, but if you click on that, you can put in several different options for what mode you'd like to run it in. There is manual, which is driving the system manually. So you're actually going to control the nitrogen pressure as it's flowing into the tube and the temperature manually. I like to use the manual mode when I first start off. I will take my solvents that I'm going to be using, the volumes that I'm going to be using, and the tubes. And what I'll do is I'll drive it manually and see how much pressure I need in the system to actually get an efficient, effective concentration. There is also a timed mode, and that's just a predetermined amount of time. So if you'd like to say 3 liters per minute of nitrogen blowdown over the course of 10 minutes, timed mode is perfect for you. There's the endpoint sensing mode. This is typically used for labs that are going down to 1 mil and want to stop right at 1 mil. If you're going down to dryness and reconstituting, you probably won't need endpoint sensing, but this is the endpoint sensing mode. And there's also the endpoint plus time. So if you wish to go down in your tube to a volume of 1 mil, you could actually add some time at the end of your concentration protocol. So once it reaches the 1 mil point, you add a minute or 2 minutes, and it'll bring it just past that. So you can actually have more room if you're adding internal standards or whatever you're adding to your final extract. And moving back to the LCD screen here, we have the final, which is the method mode. Now this is once you've optimized what ramp procedure or what nitrogen pressure that you need throughout your concentration protocol, you can actually choose to create a method, and you could store up to 10 methods in the system. Now, if you dive deep into the method when you create it, this method right here is labeled EPA 625. It's a method that uses typically larger solvent volumes of methylene chloride. And as you can see, there's different steps. It has 3 different steps, and these steps indicate the flow rate of your nitrogen that's blowing into your tube. And as you can see over here, there's a little chart, and it's a step chart, but you can also do a gradient flow. I've selected a step chart, and what it does is for step 1, it holds for 10 minutes at 4.8 liters per minute, and then it moves to step 2, and it ramps it up to 6 liters per minute of nitrogen flow. And then it moves to step 3, where it ramps it up finally to about 7 liters per minute of nitrogen flow. And on this side, there is a endpoint detection. Now you can turn that on or off. I have it switched on because I'm going to a 1 mil final endpoint. And here you have your bath temperature. I have it set at 38 degrees Celsius. So once you have your parameters selected in your method, you save your method, you name your method, and then as you can see in your Evaporate tab, it now has all your method protocol and your ramp and your temperature ready to go. So what I'll do then is I'll go to my nozzle setup. And since I'm in a TurboVap 2 format, I have 6 positions for 200 mil and 50 mil tubes. And you could select which nozzle is on or off. Right now I have the front row filled with 200 mil TurboVap tubes, but if I wanted to fill the back row, all I need to do is simply press this button and it activates the nitrogen nozzle. So now that I have my protocol for concentration and my tube selected and my nozzle selected, I will go ahead and start. And as you can see on the screen, it is actually monitoring each position live. So it will tell you, the analyst, that it is still concentrating that tube, but once it finishes, it will turn that slot, that position, green, and it'll say done. And you can actually take the tube out and move it to the next step in your analytical procedure. And you may also notice that it has a elapsed time, so it will record how long it took, so you know as an analyst how long to wait or approximately how long your concentration will take. And that way you can be able to predict it and be ready for it when it's complete. One other thing I'd like to add with the TurboVap 2, as I mentioned, we have 50 mil tubes. And Sarah, I'll let you zoom in. They might have a better picture of it. So as you can see, we have 50 mil tubes as well. This also has a 1-point tip on it. a 1 mil tip on it. Now, a lot of people will use this in a TurboVap 2 6 position if they want endpoint sensing. But what's unique about the new system is now that you have the ramping capabilities, you could actually optimize your concentration protocol to account for any variations in solvent volume, starting volume. So you will actually start to concentrate the tubes that are filled with more solvent first, because they'll start to vortex. As you ramp up the nitrogen, it will actually start to catch up to the tubes that are filled with less solvent, and they all can finish at the same time if you optimize the procedure, and therefore you don't necessarily need to use endpoint sensing, and you can move into the LV system, which actually allows to store 24 50 mil tubes for concentration. And I'm going to pass this off to Mario and let him show you the LV system.
Thanks, Evan. So as he mentioned, the transition between the TurboVap 2 and a TurboVap LV is very simple. All we're doing is swapping out the manifold here to our standard LV manifold, which is a 40-position manifold. And when we're ready, we have a rack that fits our 50 mil tubes. You simply slide into the top, and it's a 24-position rack. And if you don't want to use these 5-touch tubes, that's fine. With this rail, it will slide up and down, and you can adjust to whatever tube is going to fit your rack and your procedure. Now, I know some of you may not necessarily need a rack to adapt to 50 mil evaporation, or even 200 mil evaporation. Now, what if you're using, a 12 by 75 culture tube, a 13 by 100? Well, we have a rack, our multi-rack tube, or multi-rack here, that will accommodate that workflow. As you can see, currently I have a 12 by 75 test tube in here, and a 16 by 125. Similar to our 24 position, to adjust this, we slide the rail to the bottom of our culture tube or our test tube, so it fits securely and snug right along this rail here. And you can see that okay then. And then it's ready for evaporation. Now, in some cases, even a test tube or a filter tube may be too high of a volume, and that's okay. We have a solution for that as well. We have a multi-rack that will fit mini vials. As you can see here, I have a GC-LC vial, or even a microcentrifuge tube that this rack can accommodate both styles. Similar to the rails that will slide up and down, this plate will move up and down to fit snug against the bottom of your vial or your centrifuge tube. Now that your evaporation is done, the maintenance, many of you may be familiar with the older system and how cumbersome it was to really empty this water bath or change out that water bath for new water on a weekly basis or daily basis, whatever protocol you were using. Now we have a nice simple solution to overcome that issue.
Yeah, so I've been to several labs that have TurboVaps and our classic TurboVap systems. And I've noticed that a lot of labs, a big frustration of the older model was to change out the bath water. As you're concentrating bath water, it will actually calcify, and it is good to keep changing it out and replacing it with fresh bath water. Well, the new system is very simple. You have a drain tube, and right here you have a quick connect, and all you need to do is pop in your drain tube and drain the bath, and it'll drain within seconds, and then you can replace it with fresh bath water on a routine basis. So no more picking the system up and draining it. It is all very quick and easy to do right in position at the bench. So from there, we'd like to close out with a chance for you guys to ask some questions. Any comments on the new systems? I know it's a big change, and we're really excited to hear your feedback and any questions that you guys may have for us. And we're gonna let our camera woman, Sarah, who's doing a fantastic job, relay those questions to us.
Someone wants to know if you have to use nitrogen or if you can use compressed air.
So You wanna take that, or okay? I'll let you take it.
You have the option of using both. What we would recommend though is to use nitrogen. It's a cleaner source, and it avoids the possibility of contaminating the samples from dirty air. So you have the capability of using both, but we would highly recommend using a clean source like nitrogen.
Now, there are labs that I have encountered using clean air, as long as it does not react with your compounds or analytes of interest. I've seen labs do it before. So it's really dependent on what analytes you're looking at and how they react with oxygen. Nitrogen's great because it's inert gas, so it won't react with most analytes.
Another one is asking, if you lift the lid, does it pause? And then on top of that, when you start it in, pull it back, saying, will it start where the level was of the nitrogen?
Yes, actually, when you lift the lid, it will pause. And when you close it, if you're a classic user, it actually has a soft close hinge to it. So I've seen labs before have a little cushion to make sure it doesn't bite your fingers. This actually has a soft close, so you can actually not worry about your fingers getting bitten when you're lifting it.
There you go.
And it starts right back up at the same nitrogen level that it was paused at. Great questions, by the way. Thank you.
And everybody, just 1 more minute. Oh, here we go. What PSI ranges can it handle? That's from Raul.
I'll let you go with this one.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Raul. That's a great question. With the TurboVap, with the new generation, we focus on flow. And I know with the old systems, PSI is something that we use to gauge how much nitrogen you were using. But with this, we can run the 48 at 3.5 liters per minute. And we have a nice little chart that will show you the conversion from PSI to nitrogen flow if you're moving from a classic or an older TurboVap system to the new one. So we can certainly supply you with that information, and it'll make a nice, easy conversion for you.
Now, if you're talking about the input PSI, typically for the nitrogen, you're going to need anywhere from 80 to about 120 PSI. But when you're actually programming the flow on the system, you'll be talking in liters per minute. And as Mario said, there is a conversion chart. So for those of you that were classic TurboVap users, you can easily convert your method from PSI to liters per minute when it comes to actually your flow on your method.
It looks like Raul brought a second question. He asked, when it shuts down at the end of the program, will the nitrogen line pop off like the old TurboVap LB? When it shuts down at the end of the program, will the nitrogen line pop off like the old TurboVap LB?
So it sounds like you may have a bad connection on your nitrogen line. So I would suggest if you do, if it's popping off like that, there might be a little pressure that's building up once you turn it off and the internal gauge is shutting off. So I would suggest using a worm ring clamp around your nitrogen line to kind of tighten it onto whatever you have it. Maybe it's on a nozzle in your fume hood, or using a quick connect. A quick connects work really well. So I think that's what you're talking about. And if that is, then yeah, I would recommend just giving it a better connection point.
And with the quick connects on the new system, that shouldn't be an issue that you run into.
Leanne wants to ask if we can demonstrate a manifold exchange.
Yeah, we could. Do you want to take out yours?
Sure. We have a few minutes here.
I'm up for the challenge.
While you do that, we've been asked, does the new unit have a quick disconnect adapter?
Yes. And it has a gauge for the inflow. And I always recommend it because many times labs will not think they're getting enough nitrogen, or something's going on internally with the system, but they're actually not getting, they're losing pressure from their source. So having a gauge is a very cost-effective way of just making sure at that point you're getting enough flow. So yes, we do have quick connects, and also it is great to have the inline gauge, and that actually comes with quick connects on either side for the tubing.
I've already got this one off, so you don't have to worry about yours.
Well, you want to swap? We can swap each other.
Oh, perfect. Let's do that.
We will swap manifolds. I will turn this into an LV. So each manifold has the 6 lines going to the manifold with quick connects on them.
Is there a specific area for the quick connect for a nitrogen line?
Let's see if we can zoom in.
Well, the actual quick connect on the system, it actually comes with the quick connect on the system. And so you're going to want to come in from the left side of the system, or you're facing me, so the right. So right here where I'm pointing, there's a quick connect.
Now,
You wanna
let's
connect here?
zoom in really quick here, to the screen again. So we can see the quick connects that are on the side of the manifold as well.
So each column has a quick connect.
And each line here as well is numbered. That corresponds to the number on the side of the manifold. You never have to worry about mixing up a line, putting it in the wrong place. They're going to be the exact lengths for the manifold based on the number, and they're all going to be tagged already.
I will have to remove my tubes.
You would be afraid I'm not going to apply that hard.
No, that's a full demo. We can swap a manifold easily. I will take out my tubes.
Another question from Wanda is if there is a offer for trade-in credit for old units.
Currently, that is something we are doing, and if you'd like to reach out to me or Evan, we can certainly talk about that.
Full service demo.
Mario's quicker than I am. I will get there though as well. I need my plate. So once you connect all your lines, there's a plate to actually cover the lines up. And then you close your lid and you place your 4 pins back in. I will actually have to take out my manifold as well. Put us on the spot, but we could do it.
Yeah, and now our LV system is a TurboVap 2 over here.
Take out. All right.
Do you want some help?
No, I have it. I just taking out my pack because it's a different setup.
We've got a couple more minutes left for our time here today. Any other questions, comments, concerns, hopes, thoughts, and dreams?
No more questions?
So we have 8 minutes. We still have a good crowd with us.
Now I'm on the spot, Sarah. some of you out there that probably I've been to your lab doing this before. If you're out there, I can do this faster.
Leanne is walking the floor.
All right.
I mean, that only took me 6 minutes. That's really not long at all.
And there we go. Now I have an LV.
Perfect.
All right, any more questions? We're here at 2:30. We've gotten Katie says thanks for your time. Very
Thank you.
informative. Thanks, Katie. All right, well, with that, we will close it out. Thanks again for coming and hanging out with us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.